Always live on the free Odyssey app. From the Aetna Medicare studios.
Proud to be the voice of Pittsburgh. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. A suspect is dead after the Secret Service says he opened fire at a checkpoint near the White House. No. ABC's Allison Kosak.
The Secret Service says shortly after 6 p.m., a person approached the checkpoint in the area of 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, removed a weapon, and began firing at officers. Secret Service police officers returned fire, striking the suspect, who was taken to a local hospital where he later died. A bystander was also struck by gunfire.
The Associated Press reports that law enforcement officials say the suspect was identified as 21-year-old Nasir Best. According to D.C. court records, Best was arrested in July of last year after he attempted to enter a different White House checkpoint. President Trump Saturday saying that a deal to end the 3-month war with Iran is, quote, largely negotiated and would include opening the Strait of Hormuz. But two sources tell ABC News that Iran has not signed on to the deal yet, and there's no guarantee that they will sign. And although the United Kingdom and other European allies initially tried to avoid getting involved in the conflict, the UK is stepping in by taking part in minesweeping efforts in the Strait of Hormuz. British Armed Forces Minister Al Carn says this war has sent energy prices soaring and crippled international shipping.
The commercial insurance companies need absolute certainty if we're going to get 120 vessels flowing again through the Straits of Hormuz. That's what this capability will provide. Once that's up and running, the commercial and economic value of the Middle East, both coming out and going in, can get up and going.
And gas prices having a major impact on this Memorial Day weekend. The national average currently at 4-year highs. Here's Andy Lapau, president of Lapau Oil Associates.
I think that if the conflict goes on through July 4th, you'll see oil prices at $120 a barrel. And unfortunately for the consumer, gasoline prices will get to $5 a gallon.
You're listening to ABC News.
Hot summer days and high energy bills are on the way. Upgrade your home's old leaky windows this month during Window Nation's Buy 4 Get 4 free sale. Yes, half of your new beautiful energy efficient windows free. Plus no money down and no monthly payments or interest for 2 years. Call now 866-200-8670 or windownation.com. In select markets, trust our family of brands, New South Window and ArmorView. That's 866-200-8670 or windownation.com to book a consultation.
I've been telling you all about the secret war on our cash and the free report you can receive a copy of by contacting Swiss America at 800-289-2646. I'd also like to encourage you to subscribe to their podcast on YouTube. Just search Swiss America Trading. The podcast can provide you a ton of vital information and financial news in the challenging and uncertain times we're in. Subscribe today. Learn more about BRICS, industry leaders, and their market predictions for the future, along with what you might expect to see in terms of precious metal performance in the weeks and months ahead. Message and data rates may apply.
Kyle Busch's family now saying what killed the NASCAR legend after he went to the hospital this week.
In a statement, the family of Kyle Busch says a medical evaluation concluded Busch died of severe pneumonia that progressed into sepsis and then resulted in rapid and overwhelming complications from the sepsis. Busch was 41 years old when he died suddenly on Thursday, days before competing in the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He leaves behind his wife and 2 young children, ages 11 and 4 years old.
ABC's Alex Stone. Scary situation in Southern California ongoing. A major chemical leak in Orange County threatening to create an environmental disaster or even a major explosion. More than 50,000 people have been asked to evacuate the area. Mechanical issues with SpaceX's booster and Starship engines caused the launch to be postponed from Thursday to Friday, but it finally got off the ground. ABC's Andrew Dimber.
SpaceX launching its biggest, most powerful Starship yet, this newly redesigned rocket blasting off from South Texas near the Mexican border. This was the company's 12th unmanned Starship test flight, deploying 20 mock Starlink satellites in space during the flight. NASA is counting on Elon Musk's Starship for its Artemis program. This test flight was supposed to launch Thursday, and while there were some mechanical issues with the booster and Starship engines when the flight launched Friday, SpaceX is calling it a success.
Musk's company is headed for a historic initial public offering. It could make him the world's first trillionaire. Dave Packer, ABC News.
The KDKA AccuWeather forecast is brought to you by JP Roofing and Siding, Pittsburgh's #1 Platinum Preferred roofing replacement contractor. Call 412-829-7711.
Today brings clouds and a morning shower, then afternoon steadier rain with a thunderstorm, the high 73. Watch for showers and a thunderstorm continuing tonight, low 62. Then a spotty shower for Memorial Day tomorrow. Otherwise clouds with a high of 78. Then sunshine filtered through high clouds Tuesday, high 83. For AccuWeather, I'm meteorologist LaTroy Thornton, 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
The following is an editorial by KDKA Radio Regional Vice President Michael Spacciapoli.
This Memorial Day weekend will be a time for travel, a time for family gatherings at cookouts, and a time to relax. But this weekend is more than that. Memorial Day is a federal holiday to honor American personnel who died while serving in the armed forces. It is a day for visiting cemeteries and memorials for the 1.3 million service members who died in the line of duty. At least 13 service members have died during Operation Epic Fury in Iran. This weekend, we ask that you pay tribute to those who have sacrificed their lives to keep our lives safe and free. This is the time to put aside your political differences and remember those who have died in combat so we can continue to be the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This has been an editorial by KDKA Radio Regional Vice President Michael Spacciapoli. To view a transcript, go to kdkaradio.com.
Rob Frax on the voice of Pittsburgh, 100.1 FM and AM 1020, KDKA.
As you heard ABC News Radio moments ago, a person approached a White House security checkpoint and began firing at officers, has died, according to federal officials. The U.S. Secret Service said in a statement late yesterday that according to a preliminary investigation, the person approached a checkpoint shortly after 6 p.m., removed a weapon from his bag, and began firing at posted officers. Officers returned fire and hit the suspect, who was transported to an area hospital where he later died. A bystander was struck, but a law enforcement official said it wasn't clear whether that person was struck by the suspect's initial bullets or those fired subsequently by officers. Secret Service said none of its officers were injured and that President Donald Trump, who was at the White House at the time, was not impacted. But our nation continues to be impacted by these random acts of violence. Do you understand how unstable we must appear on the world stage? How many times have we dealt with some sort of violent act with gunfire surrounding our president? Why is it that we are living in this country that has given so many, and generation after generation, opportunities like we have never seen before? We continue to push back at the Constitution and the democracy and that Declaration of Independence as we are getting set within a few short weeks to celebrate our 250th birthday in this nation. Why have we such little regard for the sacrifices of those who've made the ultimate sacrifice as we pay tribute this weekend to veterans who did just that with Memorial Day? I find it absolutely repulsive that we live in this nation where there are people as we speak who would give anything to be able to come and live here. Many do it legally, some even illegally, and even risk their own life because they want the benefits of this, the land of opportunity. And all we continue to do, as opposed to moving forward and taking giant steps into the future, we keep having these threatening, ugly, violent gunfire stories that have to do with our government, our nation's capital, and in many cases surrounding one President Donald J. Trump. If not now, when, I ask you? If not soon, then when, I ask you? And if it doesn't happen, I simply say, now what, America, if we can't find a way to become united in this country, as so many did for generations long before us that gave us this opportunity to live in this great country. And instead of building it up, we just, every single day, and with stories like this, continue to chip away. Yeah, this is really tough to start trying to figure out why this is happening. Does anybody have an answer? Do you have a solution? Can you give me some insight on why we continue to have these violent acts? And this is the amazing part of all of this. The people that are doing these crimes, they know from the moment they make their approach, these premeditated, calculating situations, reaching into a bag, pulling out a weapon, when you have all of those layers of security around you in the nation's capital, with the president in D.C. working overtime trying to get this war in Iran over, so much so he misses his own son's wedding, and you think you're going to survive that? You must know that your life is about to change forever, and more importantly, the exclamation mark that will be the last thing at the end of your name, because your life will come to an end. I just find it absolutely unbelievable that anybody would think for one moment that this is going to do anyone any good. This assailant had to know wasn't going to get to the president, even if that was his objective. And he had to know that he will not die as a martyr, because this is just another copycat crime. This is just another headline in a world of violence. We've had assassination attempt after assassination attempt. I, in my lifetime, who grew up in the 60s, and we lost three giants, JFK, RFK, and MLK, have never witnessed so much violence in such a short period of time. And what is just so perplexing, we were talking yesterday about FDR, our country, the Depression, World War II, watching something on Netflix early this morning called The Great War. Just got into it. It's about World War I and how we got into it very late, General Pershing, and how we had nothing in the way of a military. But because of the grit of this country that was made up of a lot of immigrants who just recently became American citizens, yes, from Germany, had to make the decision to go back to their homeland to fight against their country. But they did it. Black Americans in this country who were treated horribly, but still felt that they had to, if they wanted to carve out their place in this country, they had to sign up and fight for this country, when this country wasn't doing them any favors. And now in a world that everybody has so many opportunities to succeed, and really, when I look at how much sad racism is in this country, anti-Semitism in this country, I also know that I know at least I do, accept every member of the human race. Everyone, with no matter what their religious beliefs is. I look at everyone like a human being, and I want them to treat me as I would treat them, with respect. So we have come so far, but we continue to take steps backwards by these random acts of violence that are becoming not so random anymore. So I want you to tell me this Sunday morning, in the midst of the Memorial Day weekend, in which we are paying tribute to the men and women of the military who have made the ultimate sacrifice, laid their life down, and died on battlefields far from their home. Many still trying to figure out what the fight was about, but they believed in this country so much they were willing to not question, but go into battle. And we have military might right now in Iran on red alert, waiting for what will be next. And what is going on? We have a battlefield and a battleground and a front line in the nation's capital, where on a Memorial Day weekend, a little after 6 here on the East Coast, an individual who had to know he wasn't going to live through the day pulls out a weapon, begins firing, and sadly, an innocent bystander, a 16-year-old, gets wounded. And the assailant, only 21. What is the thought process? What can be going through that person's mind? Explain to me. I would love to hear from you because I just can't make sense of any of it anymore. I just can't make sense of it anymore. We never even came close to the struggles of those from World War I and World War II, and sandwiched in between the great stock market crash, the Depression. We never had to go through that. But we continue to put a threat on our government and our commander-in-chief simply because we don't like the actions of the country that gives everybody an opportunity and a helping hand when needed. 866-391-1020 or NASCO Roofing instant access to our shows. Click away. Email us at instantAccess, KDKARadio.com. And as always, you can listen to us at 100.1 FM, AM 1020 KDK or on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. But you can also watch us online with our KDK video stream presented by Metropolitan Window Company. Just go to KDKRadio.com and click on Watch KDK Radio Livestream. Or now you can just go to our KDK Radio YouTube page and watch everything we are doing in the studio. And don't forget, if you know someone in your community who has done something extraordinary in the past year, nominate them now, KDKRadio.com, to be honored at this year's Larry's Hometown Heroes event. It's 5:15 Sports next.
Your source for official traffic information. Hear it on News Radio KDKA.
News Radio KDKA Sports.
Sports brought to you by Coons Quality Foods with 8 locations to serve you a Pittsburgh tradition. Bucks lose again to Toronto 5-2. Paul Skeens took the loss. Pirates, Toronto again today. 12:15 first pitch, 93.7 The Fan. Pitt Panthers were eliminated from the ACC Baseball Championship after falling to the number 2 seeded North Carolina Tar Heels, the final 13-5. Alex Ballou secured the pole position for the 2026 Indianapolis 500. He's driving the number 10 car, and he is the defending champion, and he drives for Pittsburgh native Chip Ganassi. And Tyler Reddick, part of the Michael Jordan race team, will start the pole for the Coca-Cola 600 that's coming up later in Charlotte. On the ice, 3-2 overtime win for Carolina. They even up their series with Montreal at 1 game apiece. And the New York Knicks have now won 10 straight playoff games as they defeated Cleveland 121-108. They are up 3 games to none. Siwoo Kim is at 21 under, and Scotty Scheffler and Wyndham Clark are 2 shots off the pace at 19 under as we head to the 4th and final round of the Byron Nelson. More sports, 93.7thefan.com.
Bring your home back to life with Zero Res, a fresher clean that you can actually feel. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $139 and whole home air duct cleaning starting at just $599. Visit ZeroResPGH.com and tell them KDKA sent you.
The KDKA radio text line is driven by Kenny Ross Auto Group. Find your best deal and Pittsburgh's best warranty at KennyRoss.com.
Listen to KDKA Radio on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps.
Pittsburgh's 100.1 FM and AM 1020. KDKA.
You know, in my opinion, this is in my opinion only, maybe we all have to sacrifice a little bit more in this country to understand what the grit of America is all about. You know, you think the Revolutionary War, overcoming insurmountable odds, when people were worried if they would have enough to eat, or if they were going to be ruled by a king from a land far away, that they wanted to get away from in the first place, one of the reasons why they traveled the Atlantic Ocean and risked everything. It wasn't like they went on a high-end ocean liner to get here. Many didn't even survive the journey that took months. And then we just go to the War of 1812, and then we end up with that Civil War, the War of all wars, in which thousands died at Gettysburg, some even related to one another on both sides, North and South. And then we lose the man that obviously eradicated slavery and got the Union through that war, Abraham Lincoln. Nation overcame it, moved forward, Spanish-American War, turn of the century, the industrial age, all of it began right here in Pittsburgh with Carnegie, Frick, Morgan, Westinghouse. All of them. Here, Grand Street was Wall Street. And then that steel that was produced early on by Carnegie Steel that eventually would become U.S. Steel and a deal that J.P. Morgan brokered. We build the machines for the war of all wars, the Great War, the First World War, in which we had to ramp up quickly. And by the time we got there, men that came from this country, men who just, in many cases, were barely men, became United States citizens, had to go back and fight against the country they were born in, Germany, and saw things, trench warfare, that you and I can't even imagine. And as I have said many times, even though the technology was there to take a photo, and the early thing that was motion pictures, something that Thomas Alva Edison invented, we never really got a good look of what was going on. But we know enough, the theater of the mind, that it was atrocious. Chemical warfare, first time ever, planes dropping bombs that were actually held by someone in the back seat of these biplanes till they got over the target and just a few hundred feet in the air would be dropped by hand. The carnage, unbelievable. Obviously, we dealt with that pandemic, that first pandemic, the flu, that killed many of those troops before they even came close to fighting in battle. Many dying in those trenches because of that flu, not because of the battle they were engaged in. That black flu that spread across Europe and killed so many. But once again, we found a way. Armistice Day, Woodrow Wilson, and then the death of Teddy Roosevelt. We roll into the roaring 20s when the world is booming and the United States is an economic power of epic proportion. Manufacturing has never been better. People are living differently, dressing differently, partying more than ever. And then in 1929, it all comes crashing down. And yes, you have that era in which people are making money off of illegal booze sales. The speakeasy is formed. But now the roaring 20s have turned into the 30s and the Depression. Bread lines, soup kitchens, people out of work, desperate for anything to be able to take care of their families, people dying literally of starvation. Dying of starvation. And then a man elected, FDR, who would die in his third term, April the 12th, 1945, but from the time he was elected until the time he died in Warm Springs, his body had just given out. Every single day he fought for the American people to get through the Depression, get people working again, get buildings erected, people creating, generating from highways to skyscrapers, plowing forward with that New Deal. And then Adolf Hitler rises to power in Germany, giving those people a false sense of security and hope that really wasn't there because of the ulterior motive was to eradicate that country, if not the world, sadly, of the Jewish race. Some 6 million were murdered in cold blood. And finally, after Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, we are in. But once again, turn back the clock because we are living in a peaceful nation of just trying to take care of each other and going to work. Once again, we have no weapons of the modern era, only things that have been left from World War I. Our troop numbers are just barely over 100,000 ready to go and fight, while Germany has millions and thousands of pieces of equipment, planes, tanks, and more. We are asked to do the unthinkable. So after the Pearl Harbor attack, every man who was of age, many who weren't even of age, found a way to navigate the system, went right away and enlisted. And we went from 100,000 plus to millions ready to go fight the fight. And they did. And sadly, many did not come back. But the American people were at the side of FDR, were promoting the greater good, were rationing everything from gasoline to coffee to sugar to make sure that the young men and not so young men, because there were people 18 to 40 fighting the fight because everybody wanted to do their part. And then here, the women who were working just as hard, if not more so, were in those steel mills building the tanks and bombs and things that were needed, including ships, to fight in the Pacific theater and the European theater. But at all times, even when people were starving in the streets, even when there was a war abroad, and many were losing not just one son, but multiple sons, people weren't lashing out at our government. They weren't going after our president. They were rallying around the flag. They were trying to do something that was significant. They were trying to leave their mark for future generations by saying, we will win this fight so you will have an opportunity to be blessed as we have been to be in the most powerful free nation in the world. And through the work of those who were finding their fame and fortune, making 10 times more than the average person in Hollywood, because if it was a penny that someone had left over, they would find a way to go to that local movie theater to escape all of the carnage and what they were going through. And the people in Hollywood under contract to some of the biggest names in the country, Paramount, 20th Century, Warner Brothers, were making thousands of dollars a week. But instead of basically staying back from the fray and saying it's not our fight, we're comfortable, we're good, they went out and barnstormed the country. Some even stepped up, like Indiana, Pennsylvania native Jimmy Stewart, Clark Gable, and others, and even some of the greatest athletes of the era, Ted Williams and more, went to the front line to fight or out selling war bonds, asking people who could not even afford a loaf of bread to step up and provide whatever they could financially so we could use that to build the bombs, the tanks, the weapons that were needed to win this war, to prevent the rise of the Third Reich from coming across the Atlantic and engulfing the most powerful free nation in the world, and stop the killing field that was the European theater, and prevent Japan, who was steamrolling through the Philippines and everywhere, threatening everything in the Asian Pacific area known as the Pacific Theater. We did what we had to do. And at all times with those fireside chats, many heard right here, KDKA Radio, that great gift of radio, letting the American people actually hear firsthand what the president was thinking and how the president was saying to each and every one of those Americans listening, I need your help. We can't do this alone. We must work together. And they did. And if there was ever a time in our country's history when people could have complained and said, we're not getting a fair shake. Your New Deal is the raw deal. My children are starving. I have no roof over my head. I can't put shoes on their feet or clothes on their back. Why should I support you? They didn't say, why should I support you? They simply said, let me support you. Let me support America. And they did. And somehow, some way, as FDR passed away on that April 12th, 1945, and his train brought him back in that flag-draped coffin for a ceremony that many people who went through it and lived through it said it was one of the most remarkable times in our country's history, because there was no anti-Semitism, there was no racism, there was no look at someone because of the color of their skin or their religious beliefs. Everybody was on the same page. They wanted America to be what we have become. An incredible nation full of opportunity and a democracy, living by the rules that were etched in stone by the founding fathers as we celebrate their 250th anniversary of America being born. But now, throughout all of the things that we've gone through, everything that we continue to try to overcome, we have another story of violence in the nation's capital and gunfire surrounding the President of the United States. So please help me make sense of this, because believe me when I tell you on this Sunday morning, I can't make sense of it, because I see the gifts this nation has. And it boggles my mind at those who can't see the same thing.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you're in the Pittsburgh area and caring for a loved one with Medicaid, get paid starting today. Freedom Care has already helped over 162,000 families get the care they deserve, with 97% satisfaction and more than 8,000 five-star reviews. If you have Medicaid, you need to hear this. You may qualify to choose a caregiver you already trust, a family member or friend, and they can start getting paid. No agencies, no strangers, just someone you know, helping with meals, medication, bathing, mobility, and more. This service isn't for later, it's for right now. It's 100% free to you through Medicaid, and caregivers get paid right away after their shift. Find out if you qualify today. Call 412-801-7213. That's 412-801-7213. Don't wait. Call 412-801-7213 now. Again, 412-801-7213. Freedom Care. Get paid to care starting now.
Freedom Care. We're here for you.
While you sleep, there are people you've never met who are working hard to make your morning. People who get up at ungodly hours to make sure you get the information you want. People who dedicate their lives to make yours better while you sleep. These people come together during the Big K Morning Show with Larry Richert, 5:30 to 10 in the morning, to make sure you have the best news, traffic, and weather to start your day. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA. From the Aetna Medicare Studios.
Proud to be the voice of Pittsburgh. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. A suspect is dead after the Secret Service says he opened fire at a checkpoint near the White House. Multiple officials tell ABC News the alleged suspect is a 21-year-old who was known to the Secret Service and tried to get past another checkpoint, telling officers he was Jesus Christ. In Orange County, California, fears of a potential chemical catastrophe. Emergency responders trying to prevent an explosion of chemical tanks. ABC's Jack Lindley.
Several tanks that are holding thousands of gallons of a chemical, and if one of them blows up, they're concerned about a chain reaction, right? Like this massive explosion, mushroom cloud of chemicals that can result from this.
President Trump's Saturday saying that a deal to end the 3-month war with Iran is, quote, largely negotiated and would include opening the Strait of Hormuz. But two sources tell ABC News that Iran has not signed on to the deal yet, and there's no guarantee they will sign. This is ABC News.
Join Beth Andrews for the Net Worth Financial Hour Saturdays at 1 to get the news and information you need to make your retirement dream a reality. That's the Net Worth Financial Hour with Beth Andrews, Saturdays at 1. Net Worth Advisors, LLC is a registered investment advisor.
The KDKA AccuWeather forecast is brought to you by JP Roofing and Siding, Pittsburgh's #1 Platinum Preferred Roofing Replacement Contractor. Call 412-829-7711.
A morning shower gives way to steadier rain and some thunder this afternoon, high 73, with showers and a thunderstorm continuing tonight on the way to a low of 62. Memorial Day brings a shower for some tomorrow, high 78, then warmer for Tuesday with sunshine through some high clouds, the high 83. For AccuWeather, I'm meteorologist LaTroy Thornton, 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
Hi, this is Larry Richert. Join us Tuesday on the Big K Morning Show, 5:30 until 10. We will take you to Dublin, Ireland. Find out why.
Yeah, you know, listening to that story, ABC News, the suspect and who he thought he was, it's just, honestly, I don't know about you. I understand mental health is a major problem in our country. Okay? I get it. And we need more psychiatrists and psychologists, and people who need treatment should seek it and get it. It's highly important. But, you know, I keep hearkening back to that period of the turn of the 19th into the 20th century. And because we're talking Memorial Day, I think about World War I. I mean, you had men that came to this country, became citizens, right? Had families in the latter part of the 19th century, went to work in the job market, a coal mine, a steel mill, to where you didn't know if you were going to survive the day. Working conditions were horrible. You were working 12 hours a day. You went home, ate some food, fell asleep, and you did it again. There was no 40-hour work week. Nobody had every Sunday off, and there were no blue laws, so people were selling, making, creating, generating 7 days a week. It was a wheel of exhaustion. And it wasn't the type of work that we complain about. Oh, I was at the computer terminal too long. My neck hurts, right? I think I have carpal tunnel because I've been on this keyboard for so many hours. I get it. It happens. But these people were swinging sledgehammers, right? Big vats of steel swinging above their head. And in a split second, their life could be taken. Machinery that would cut off any digit on either hand within a millisecond. And the women at home, scrubbing floors on their hands and knees and then basically turning around to wring out the rag when it was full of soot again because of the mill that was at the end of Main Street. And trying to figure out from their garden what would be the best thing to make for a meal tonight when nobody counted calories and there was no such thing as high blood pressure and cholesterol because people were exercising as though they were professional athletes. But that exercise didn't come from being down the street at Planet Fitness. It came from being fit because they did hard work. And somehow they were able to pay for a home when the automobile, that Model T that Henry Ford made affordable, that everyone could own one, they did. He began the $5 workday. People started to make money and were grateful. And then those row houses that lined Main Street to the mill gate became the suburbs. And we had the babies of those immigrants and people from the early 20th century who weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth, but that spoon they used to dig a foundation to make it even stronger for we baby boomers. And we baby boomers went out and found our way, even though the way of our parents changed because the mills disappeared. And a lot of those jobs went to the wayside. So we had to reinvent the wheel to not only keep our families and our family name going, but the community we called home. So the Steel City became Meds and Eds and technology, and we are doing incredible things here. But the thing that we have done for so many years is make excuses. There's got to be a better way. You know, there's got to be a better way. We need to use our brains, put on our thinking caps. We don't need to physically break our back to make it work. And we hire people to do everything. Instead of growing tomatoes, we go to the local grocery store, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you're not connected to Mother Earth. You don't see things rise from the dirt. You only get to have that instant gratification as what we believe is our God-given right. If we want it, we don't have to achieve it. We just reach for it. And that's America. No, it's not. And I think it's one of the reasons why we have lost sight of who we are, what the flag stands for, what the meaning of Memorial Day is, and why things like what happened in Washington, D.C. a little after 6 here on the East Coast last night continues to happen. Nobody wants to face the real issue, and that is we've not earned it. We've not gone out and put in the sweat equity. We haven't rolled up our sleeves. We have not got that dirt underneath our fingernails, that grit. You know, so many stories I have heard through the years about the men that came home that literally from the tip of their nose to their toes covered with dirt. Because when they went to work, they worked. And when they came home, the mother, the wife of that household, had everything in line, working harder than any of those men. Because managing a household, especially keeping it clean 3 meals a day from scratch, but making every cent last when every cent really did matter. And then all of a sudden, the rug pulled out from underneath you and you have lost your job, whether it's in the early 80s or during the 1930s. And now you have to find a way to make it work. So what do? How do you make it work? You once again reinvent the wheel. You go to work, you budget, you tighten your belt, you start maybe making more things from scratch at home, growing your own food. You see, back in the day, Gardening wasn't a hobby. People didn't do it to relax or meditate or to watch nature unfold. The first sight of a robin at springtime. No. When they saw that robin, they realized it was time to get digging in the dirt because the food that they would grow would keep their family nourished. And a little thing that was known as canning started to happen. The immigrants brought a lot of this stuff from overseas, from Poland to Ireland and Germany, and people who were born here, grew up around this country, were farmers. They understood the significance of it. Look, if you're listening to me right now and you have a home that was built in the late 1800s or early 1900s, if you go into your basement, first off, if you can stand up, you're lucky, right? But you will notice in those basements, you had two little rooms, one to the right, one to the left. And they were very small in stature, but there was a reason. You would go in, there was a few shelves or maybe some sort of pantry or cupboard. Those were the rooms that the canning products went. All of the vegetables, everything that you would grow. And they were strategically every year canned. Why? Because when the dead of winter was here, and maybe the income was far and few between as far as paychecks were concerned, you had the ability to go into that basement and reach on that shelf something that would give your family subsistence. But it also did something else, that another thing that people in this country have lost sight of. The gathering, breaking of bread, the food, the communication, the conversations, and how stories would be handed from one generation to the next, just like the recipes that were used to make that food for the family. When people sat down and did not go through a drive-through, but actually chewed their food and made eye contact and had conversation. That's what America was about. That's who we are about. But I think, sadly, we've lost sight of that for whatever reason. But we need to find a way to get back to it. All right, let's find out whether or not this rainy weather will be gone before the weekend. The holiday weekend is gone. First alert forecast, getting ready for a Sunday morning duty on KDKA television. Here's Mary Hours. Rain, go away. What can you tell me, Mary?
Oh, I know. Well, it's going to be warmer today than it was yesterday. I mean, we got some dry time yesterday, but we didn't have, it was such a washout in the morning, and then it was dreary all day in the low 60s. It's going to be noticeably more humid today, and we're back into the 70s. And then we do have some dry time, but also we do have some quick showers that move in a little bit later, some heavy downpours possible for a few areas. That'll be mainly later tonight. And then by tomorrow, things are clearing up. We're in the upper 70s. We'll have clouds decreasing for some sunshine, and then it looks like we're in for a nice dry streak next week with temperatures back into the upper 70s, even low 80s.
So there may be a little time to grill and cut the grass before the weekend is gone.
Yeah, I think you'll get some time for sure.
Well, that's good. Listen, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch up with you next Sunday, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Mary Hours, first alert forecast coming up today. KDKA television. Rob will be here top of the hour, and we have the latest AccuWeather throughout the weekend as well. And we're going to be with you today all the way until 1 o'clock, and then back for our Memorial Day show tomorrow night. Joining me tomorrow night will be Bob Dvorak, award-winning author, has written many books about the 82nd Airborne. We are also going to talk to Tony Accomando, Friends of Da Nang, and also life-changing service dogs for veterans. They have become regulars with me on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. But the theme this weekend, we're going to focus more on the Great War, World War I, and also the Greatest Generation. And the thought process behind this is simple. Because all of the things that I continue to talk about on this radio station, as far as what's happening with our government, what's happening with the foundation, the moral compass, obviously the finances of this country, all of it really has started to crumble. When you think about it, when that greatest generation started to die off, the last connection to really the heyday of our country, when the economy was booming and how we also came together when things weren't booming in our country, but we had that grit, that determination, no matter what our nationality was, our race, even though we may have had differences as far as our religious beliefs, political beliefs, we always came together when the country needed us. And more times than not, from the turn of the 19th into the 20th century, really up until, I would say, maybe Watergate, when the country stopped believing in the government, when they stopped trusting the government, when Richard Nixon got on Marine One and left the White House in disgrace in August of that year, I don't think our country has ever recovered. And I think it's one of the reasons why it spiraled out of control in the 70s. The Vietnam War came to an end, sadly, but those troops did not get a chance to come home and get the same respect of those who came back from World War I and World War II. Another mistake, how we treated the Vietnam veteran. And obviously there were no jobs for them as there were World War I and World War II because the country wasn't growing. It wasn't recouping what it had lost. It wasn't trying to get back into the business of manufacturing. It was all about subtracting because we started to lose those mills. For whatever reason, union management couldn't get along, the lack of investment back into these mills, and a lot of that blueprint was shipped off to other places. Labor was cheaper, easier to say, give me the profit, I wash my hands. And then in turn, instead of being able to buy the product in this country, our government and others started to demand to buy places such as China, their goods, Russia, their goods, other parts of the world, their goods. And not only did you have to pay top dollar, but you got to sell it maybe at a cheaper price, but the products weren't as good. So people were buying the same product 2 or 3 times in a lifetime as opposed to once. And what else happened? All of the things that we made in this country were not being made. So factories from one side of the country, north, south, east, and west, started to close down. And people had less money. And then obviously we went through double-digit inflation, gas rationing of the 70s, and all of the things, including that 2008 crash that really almost crushed our economy. So where are we right now in 2026? We're trying to end a war in Iran. We're trying to get the price of gasoline from not being $5 plus a gallon anymore. And more importantly, trying to take a big chunk out of a $38 trillion debt. That's where we are in America. And the story that we began with today, a 21-year-old who is dead today, who in Washington, D.C., at a little after 6 last night, reached into a bag, pulled out a handgun, and began firing, and subsequently officers returned fire at a checkpoint. He is dead at the age of 21, and a 16-year-old bystander is in a hospital in the nation's capital because that person was wounded. We'll come back. More up until 6 o'clock in the way of Open Talk, and then it's Tech Vibe Radio, and then we'll come back with Doug today in the 7 o'clock hour. It's all about Memorial Day and your picnic plans on the Coons Cooking Hour. 9 o'clock, more Open Talk. We'll do the deep dive on the Secret Service, which has been very busy of late, and yesterday no exception. And then coming up at 10 o'clock, Accurate Solutions, and then the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday Show will wrap up our day, all today with your Pratt Pack on KDKA.
When the weather turns bad, turn to us for the best news, weather, and traffic information from the KDKA Radio Storm Center. Presented by Duquesne Light Company. Larger than light. Online and on the voice of Pittsburgh. 100.1 FM and AM 1020. KDKA. News Radio, KDKA. Sports.
Sports brought to you by Coons Quality Foods with 8 locations to serve you a Pittsburgh tradition. Bucks lose again to Toronto 5-2. Paul Skeens took the loss. Pirates Toronto again today. 12:15 first pitch, 93.7 a fan. Pitt Panthers were eliminated from the ACC Baseball Championship after falling to the number 2 seeded North Carolina Tar Heels, the final 13-5. Alex Palouse secured the pole position for the 2026 Indianapolis 500. He's driving the number 10 car, and he is the defending champion, and he drives for Pittsburgh native Chip Ganassi. And Tyler Reddick, part of the Michael Jordan race team, will start the pole for the Coca-Cola 600 that's coming up later in Charlotte. On the ice, 3-2 overtime win for Carolina. They even up their series with Montreal at 1 game apiece. And the New York Knicks have now won 10 straight playoff games as they defeated Cleveland 121-108. They are up 3 games to none. Siwoo Kim is at 21 under, and Scotty Scheffler and Wyndham Clark are 2 shots off the pace at 19 under as we head to the 4th and final round of the Byron Nelson. More sports, 93.7thefan.com.
Thinking about starting weight loss treatment? GoodRx is here to help. We offer FDA-approved GLP-1 medications prescribed by licensed providers, including the Wegovy tablet, with straightforward pricing and pickup at your local pharmacy or delivery to your door. All from America's #1 prescription app. Go to goodrx.com/weight-loss to get started. GoodRx is not insurance. Cancel anytime. #1 prescription app ranked by a third-party study.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from IQ Bar. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at eatiqbar.com/policy/terms of service.
Most protein bars are packed with sugar, carbs, and unpronounceable ingredients. There's a much better option. I'm Will, and I crafted IQ Bar plant protein bars with clean, functional, delicious ingredients to empower doers like you with superior brain and body fuel.
Now you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping when you text radio to 64,000. That's radio to 64,000.
Hear about it, then talk about it. 100.1 FM and AM 1020. KDKA.
You know, one of the other things we're going to talk about today at 9 o'clock, and we're also going to get into this tomorrow night as we continue to salute the men and women of the military this Memorial Day weekend, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice. One of the things that I have learned doing a little bit of research for this weekend's festivities, by following some of these former presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, Dwight Eisenhower, who commanded our troops D-Day in June of 1944, and really was the person that FDR handpicked before he passed away, and just at the end of World War II. FDR died in April of 1945. And, you know, it's ironic. A lot of those men, because of transportation and the way it was and how they were left behind in Europe to kind of clean things up because Russia and Stalin and what we were going through is very, you know, dividing up Germany and all that other stuff. They didn't even get back to the shores of this country until like 1947. That's something that I was really shocked to find out. But there are certain people who are born to lead during wartime. And whether you like Donald Trump or not, and I think just how he continues to push forward when there's been so many acts of violence surrounding his administration, and yesterday, another example, right? The guy's courageous, and he doesn't back down. He doesn't bury his head in the sand. He continues to push for America's future. I do believe he's trying to get the war in Iran done because he understands there's a lot at stake here. Human life, obviously, the most important thing. But a lot of Americans are suffering right now because of the price at the pump. It's not good. And I think he understands to keep Wall Street, which for the most part, surprisingly, continues to be upbeat. And look, Wall Street is much more than just the bulls and bears and people that are, you know, barons of Wall Street. It's about everyday people trying to get to retirement, hoping to hit one or two stocks that will give them some of that mailbox money so they can ease into the most important time of their life that they've worked for, right? So they don't have to retire and work more jobs or just keep working until the day they pass, or even saying, look, the only way I'm going to get out of this is if I die before much longer because my money is about ready to run out. That's where we are in this country today. But speaking of Born to Lead, FDR created the GI Bill, created a lot more, including Social Security. And at that time, just prior to World War II and in the midst of World War II, over 60% of the working poor in this country were 65 and over. But because of that little gift of Social Security, it immediately was a cash influx into the country. People were able to retire, live their life, and live happily ever after into their 70s, into their 80s, into their 90s, or however long they live. But now we live in a society, after all the gifts and everything that we've had given to us because of the greatest generation, people use Social Security as their only means of retirement. Trapped in their own house, unable to go on a vacation, unable in many cases to even pay their taxes, which even though they burned their mortgage 20 years ago, their tax payment is more than their mortgage payment was. That makes no sense, but that's how far we are gone. We have gone in the wrong direction. We are upside down in America. And many people don't even go to the doctors when they need to get a physical because they're afraid of the bill that's going to come in the mail because they don't have enough money in their savings to cover it. Now, you tell me how you go through a Great Depression, 2 world wars, you build America into this economic juggernaut, and this is where we are in America. Plus, we're dealing with another story hours after the fact of gunplay out in front of the nation's capital with the president in the nation's capital. And we have a 21-year-old dead, an innocent bystander at the age of 16 in a hospital with a bullet in their body. And once again, it's commonplace. Even when the story broke last night, I had just gotten home and I'm thinking, here we go again. We can't even get weeks removed from what happened at the correspondence dinner. Many of us are still thinking about what happened here in Butler. It's mind-boggling that we, after all the sacrifice, we have let things slip away. But there are certain people who are born to lead at the right time. And I believe FDR was at the right time. I believe Teddy Roosevelt into Woodrow Wilson was the right time. I even think George W. Bush during 9/11 was the right man for the job at that time. And there were others, Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. And I think Donald Trump is a man that is right for the job now. These economic times, the threat of war throughout the world, not just in the Middle East, but we have a very scary situation in Ukraine still developing. We still have a very scary situation with China and the possibility of Taiwan. One of the reasons why America is getting set to have the biggest armed deal ever with Taiwan, because they know that's a powder keg. And as is the Middle East and everything that Israel has gone through and why we need to stand by them now more than ever. Maybe all of you are going to start to realize that Donald Trump is at the right time, and maybe the stars were aligned. Maybe it was divine intervention. I don't know. But how does a guy get elected in 2016, leave in a very unceremonial way, January 6th and more? He is out on his own for 4 years, and he gets reelected overwhelmingly back into office because people know what is happening in the world. We need to have peace through strength, but we have to turn the tide when it comes to our economy. So he tries these tariff deals, people push back. He tries Doge with Elon Musk, who is on the verge when SpaceX goes public to become the first trillionaire. And that's pretty exciting news because it's America, and he is a person that is making his way by building things in America with Tesla and SpaceX. But no, the American people don't like it. They think he has too much power. Whatever happened to the entrepreneurial spirit, you see, because it's gone to the wayside. And extreme wealth through sweat equity, people look at in a bad way. That's not the America that was really a part of that turn of the 19th into the 20th century with Carnegie, Frick, Morgan, and Westinghouse. People admired them. They wanted to be like them. Even though they weren't perfect, people understood you need that wealth, you need that corporate ladder, and you need a workforce, that middle class, which keeps everything upright, carrying all of it on their shoulders, the middle class. We have no middle class in America. So what has happened? Our economy continues to spiral out of control. The patriotism meter is not anywhere near where it should be peaking right now. And all of this is happening, including waiting to see what happens in Iran. The price of oil is skyrocketed to where people are landlocked now because they can't afford to even put $20 a day in their tank. That's where we're at. The same country that when the pandemic broke out, within a month they were begging the government to bail them out, as were some family-owned businesses that have been around for 100 years because the foundation has been very fragile for a very long time. And we have a man who I think was born to lead, right time, right now, to get our foundation solid, to make us a powerful nation around the world again, and also to make our defense and our military strong and protect our borders. But instead of embracing him as the country did at Theodore Roosevelt and Abraham Lincoln, a Woodrow Wilson, an FDR, a George W. Bush, they're pushing back. But little do they know, meaning you and so many who disagree with this man in our country and have nothing but contempt. You may not want to hear this, but because of the turbulent times that we live in right now, and because of the threat everywhere I look, not just as far as a war is concerned, but the economic war that we're all facing and the crumbling of the foundation that is the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, like him or not, and yes, he makes me sometimes scratch my head and say, what did he just say? He may be tough and maybe a little rough around the edges, or maybe more so than not, but Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, may be the only hope that we have as Americans to continue to celebrate that thing that is the 4th of July, our independence, and also to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, because just maybe Sadly, those who made the ultimate sacrifice may have died in vain. And I pray every day that that doesn't happen. And you should be standing by this country and this president, too. News coming up next. Good morning.
While you sleep, there are people you've never met who are working hard to make your morning. People who get up at ungodly hours to make sure you get the information you want. People who dedicate their lives to make yours better while you sleep. These people come together during the Big K Morning Show with Larry Richert, 5:30 to 10 in the morning, to make sure you have the best news, traffic, and weather to start your day. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
I'm with Joe Potocznik, JP Roofing and Siding, with an exciting opportunity.
Normally, Larry, we offer $500 off any complete roofing and siding replacements. For our spring promotion, we're offering an additional $500 off.
Joe, that's $1,000.
That's right, Larry.
You better call today. The roofing experts, JP Roofing and Siding, 412-829-7711, 412-829-7711. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Larry.
Being diagnosed with leukemia, lymphoma, myeloma, or one of over 100 other types of blood cancer makes people want more time to do the things they love. We are Blood Cancer United. We do the most for more people with blood cancer. Join us at bloodcancerunited.org.
Listen to KDKA Radio on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps.
KDKA and KDKA-FM HD2 Pittsburgh. W261AX Pittsburgh.
Always live on the free Odyssey app. From the Aetna Medicare studios.
Proud to be the voice of Pittsburgh. 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
It is 56 degrees at Pittsburgh International at 6 o'clock. I'm Rob Taylor. An armed man was shot and killed outside the White House at a checkpoint on Saturday evening. ABC's Allison Kosick has the details.
The Secret Service says shortly after 6 p.m., a person approached the checkpoint in the area of 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, removed a weapon, and began firing at officers. Secret Service police officers returned fire, striking the suspect, who was taken to a local hospital where he later died. A bystander was also struck by gunfire.
A man is in custody after barricading himself inside a home in Donora. The incident happened around 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon at a home on McCrae Avenue. It lasted for hours. Police and the SWAT team were called in to rectify the situation. The man eventually surrendered to police. It's unclear what originally led police to that home. Well, the man who was hit and killed by a vehicle early Saturday morning in Chartiers Township, Washington County, has been identified. Washington County coroner identified him as 21-year-old Philip Fry of Meadowlands. The pedestrian crash happened around 2 o'clock Saturday morning along Pike Street. Driver stayed at the scene. It's unclear if any charges will be filed. Well, the death of a 4-year-old boy who was killed when he was struck by a vehicle in the Hill District has been ruled an accident. Investigators say the 4-year-old Yasan Irvin Weathers ran into the street right before he was struck by that vehicle on Monday night. Driver stayed at the scene. Police say the driver was not impaired. The crash is under review by the city's Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. Well, a man was arrested on Saturday and charged with burglary and aggravated indecent assault. Pittsburgh police arrested 29-year-old Charles Willis. Police say he confessed to the crimes that were committed in Oakland early Saturday morning at a residence in the 3400 block of Parkview Avenue. Willis also faces loitering, indecent assault, prowling at nighttime, and harassment charges. He's being held in the Allegheny County Jail. And that large 4-foot piece of copper from a boiled kettle that was stolen from the Penn Brewery about a week ago has been found and returned to the brewery. The historic piece was found unmelted by Pittsburgh